Take Mean Girls, Clueless, The Craft, and You Have the Sinners, written and directed by Courtney Page in her feature film debut. Aaron Hazelhurst also helped her write the movie, and we focus on a small religious town, Catholic specifically, with a bunch of repressed people and a bunch of people that want to serve the Lord, service each other, and then we go to a small Catholic school of boys and girls and about, I think, 50 students. Seriously, all the classrooms were like 12 desks, so I don't think it was a very big school. And then we go to microscopic levels to focus on the sins. 7 girls, each one of them lives out one of the 7 deadly sins. And then we go to practically just microbe levels. We go way, way deep in on this shit, all the way down to the very strands of DNA to focus on the character of Aubrey, who provides an opening narration, closing narration, middle narration. They might as well just had her narrate the entire goddamn movie because it was exposition, the goddamn musical. And she opens with a line, "This is a story about sin. My name is Aubrey Miller, and this is a story about how my body ended up at the bottom of the lake." Oh, okay. Was it, revenge from a jilted lover? Was Jason Voorhees brought back from the dead to drag her down into the lake? Was she ice skating and suddenly she forgot it was spring and oh shit, if physics are working and I'm going to sink into the lake and I can't swim? What the hell happened? Unfortunately, none of those things, not nearly as entertaining. It just turned out to be your basic revenge plot and everything. It turned out to be a hodgepodge of ideas thrown at the wall to see what stuck, and all that stuck was shit. If you can't tell, I goddamn hated this movie. That opening comparison that I made, it's more like Mean Girls 2, Clueless the series, and The Craft Legacy, and all the bad parts. And since all those things were shit, holy fuck, this is bad. This is really bad. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they had to, turn in the first draft and they had original ideas, or the studio decides to just basically take the second half of the movie, hack it to pieces, and then throw it together and, put it together with super glue and duct tape. And then, oh yeah, those random scenes work out, and we don't really care about who these characters are or why these characters are suddenly dying. And let's just have a bunch of suspects and everything, and then let's just make it these people. Even though if you watch any kind of goddamn movie, you would have been able to figure that out if you had any kind of goddamn sense. If even your brain was turned into fucking mush and it was just basically a pile of grits, you would have been able to figure out who the goddamn killer was in this. You would have been able to figure out every goddamn twist and turn. But here's the thing. The movie's also grossly incoherent, catastrophically bad, stunningly awful. It's very beautiful to look at as far as the locations, and there's a bunch of pretty people and everything, and a bunch of, again, repressed religious people. And there were a few ideas that were originally introduced where you're like, okay, they could go somewhere with, and they dropped it. Oh, they could go with these 2 girls that might like each other, and they dropped that. And then they get back, and then they drop that. And then they have this whole thing with Aubrey maybe being this and that, and what the hell's going on. And oh, this one girl maybe is a real bitch, but then is maybe not, because we don't know what the hell's going on with her character arc. Who gives a shit? And yeah, it's not worth mentioning really anybody in the cast. It's not that they were bad. Actually, I hope the entire cast moves on to bigger and better things, because they all have to start somewhere. And maybe Courtney Page will get better. But as far as a feature film debut, this was fucking atrocious. And I just watched The Vigil recently, and that was a feature film debut from a guy that understood psychological horror. Now, granted, when you do a movie like this, you need to go dark comedy. You need to just have fun. You don't need to treat it so goddamn seriously, and that's what they did here. I'm going to get into spoilers here in a little bit, but basically, Aubrey provides the narration about the sins. Katie has greed. Stacy has envy. Robin has sloth because she's lazy. Molly has gluttony because she hates herself, and makes fun of her stuffing her face. That's good. Let's make fun of eating disorders. Let's not do that. Tori is wrath. She was the goth-type punk girl. Aubrey had pride. And then Grace had lust, even though she was a virgin. So she wasn't lustful. Or maybe she wasn't a virgin. Who the hell knows? So, one funny line, though, we do not doodle on the good book, because these girls really didn't care about being in school, and some have very religious parents, though you really only focus on Grace's parents, because her daughter, or her dad rather, is the, pastor. So, naturally being the pastor's daughter, she acts out. And there's a brother that you almost think might be the killer, but no, he's not, because he's too weird and mousy to really be a goddamn killer or do anything except make fun of people. And God damn it, everyone's an idiot, end quote, is pretty much just how you could write this here. And it's one thing for me to read notes on a YouTube video. Everybody, seriously, at least 80% of the scenes, it almost seemed like everybody was reading their lines and looking back and forth, or just reading them off camera and doing this. You could see their eyes moving, and it was absolutely hilarious. Absolutely goddamn hilarious. I'm going to get... this movie, just from everything to like the killer reveal to how the people were killed and all this, it was just so badly done. There were ideas here that were all thrown together, blended together, and shit was put in the goddamn blender. They served it to you and said, oh yeah, by the way, all the good parts of, like, say, The Craft, Clueless, and Mean Girls, no, we're going to actually make it the sequels, the inferior stuff, and we're going to make it even worse. I understand everybody has to start somewhere, but this movie was goddamn shit. So let's get into spoilers, why fucking don't we? Okay, so Aubrey goes missing. And then it turns out that Aubrey isn't missing. Aubrey orchestrated this whole goddamn thing because she wrote in her journal that, you know, that they had all done bad things. And the journal had gotten stolen and ripped apart in this weird ritual. This weird ritual where they pretended to be Satanists to basically scare Aubrey. And then they brought her out into the woods after she had confessed to Grace's father. And then she goes missing. But basically what ends up happening is she finds the town coroner to help her basically, look dead. And then him and her end up killing people. They end up offing all these people. But here's the problem. The way they off them, like somebody gets kidnapped and then one girl just ends up dead. And then another girl is suddenly in a chair, in a cabinet, and then she ends up dead. With satanic stuff written on her. And pictures are being taken. Why are pictures being taken? Who the fuck knows? Would you like to know what the hell's going on in this movie? So the fuck would I, because I didn't care at some point. And I try to watch, I try to give as much of a chance to bad movies as I can, because some movies have turned out to actually be pretty goddamn good. I watched a movie called Slacks recently, and guess what? It was about killer genes, but it knew what it was. This didn't go the comedy route. It definitely went the horror route in that it was fucking horrifying. But yeah, it turns out that Aubrey had gotten the town coroner to help her and was just offing a whole bunch of people. And then there would be just random scenes like the sheriff meeting two guys from his past from the big city. And then the sheriff and his deputy would basically just get rid of these guys by threatening them with breaking, telling the captain about breaking and entering. And so they would be written off. Then they would throw just more people on. Tori and Grace would end up kissing at one point and then being arguing later. Because why the fuck not? Because plot point. And then why was everybody at a campfire party? Who the hell knows? Everybody mourns in very, very strange ways here. Because it was really hacked together. Or just, hacked up and then put back together in the most haphazard way. And I don't understand it. So it turns out that, it was Aubrey. And Aubrey convinced Feldman because he was a Satanist and had his own sins. And he had helped everybody and that she was going to frame him. And she says it's in full view of him. He shoots her, takes Grace and Tori and basically has them wrap her body in a bedsheet. Throws it in the goddamn river. That's how her body ended up at the bottom of the lake. And then basically the sheriff tries to convince this guy Feldman to not shoot Grace. He ends up getting shot. And then Tori ends up shooting Feldman. So everybody's dead. So they pack all this shit in at the end. All this shit happens very quickly, despite nothing really happening for the first 45 minutes. Like, seriously, nothing really happens for the first 45 minutes. Like, it's absolutely astounding. The biggest sin was the fact that this movie got goddamn made. And that's it. That's it. I do not have much kind to say about this movie. And look, I get it. Not every movie can be perfect. But if you can't even make your movie fun, if you make your movie so goddamn incoherent, studio, director, whatever it is, this movie can eat the biggest pile of shit. This is right up there with Tom and Jerry movie and All My Friends Are Dead. Absolute goddamn abomination of filmmaking. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.